What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 50 of the College Loop Podcast, the big 5-0. We are halfway to 100, and guess what? We are well over 100 subscribers, too. So thank y'all for that again. And if you like the new layout, we've upgraded. We have upgraded from Zoom to StreamYard. So now it looks a little bit better. We don't have to tell you everything that we have. It's all right there. Look at it scrolling across the bottom down there.
We're still definitely going to tell everybody everything we have.
We still are, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm again joined today by Harrison Tarr and Daniel Locke, my co-hosts, and Bruesday with Brooks. Brooks Walton is here as well. How you doing, Brooks?
I'm good. Thanks for having me back again.
Having you back, dude. It's a privilege and an honor to be hanging out with the one and only Brooks Walton. There's nothing quite like Bruesdays with Brooks, and who doesn't love talking ball? Who doesn't love talking transfer portals? Maybe me, but we're going to talk about it anyways. So that's the topic of discussion today, fellas. And let's go and jump right into it, not waste too much time. Auburn has had a slow start in the transfer portal. So has everyone. But there is a sense of urgency within this fan base about whether or not this team is going to make the kind of splashes that they made in the fall. They're not. I'm not saying that they can't go get guys, but that volume, you're just not going to see that volume again of newcomers. You probably won't see that again under a Hugh Freeze tenure, just because in theory, you're building an SEC roster, and in theory, you won't need to replicate what you've seen there. I know a lot of people are getting antsy, guys, and people were talking about, let's play pretend for a second. Where are the most important positions on the field that everyone's looking at right now? Where are my linebackers? Where are my wide receivers? Yes, guys, we know. We're waiting on the quarterback. We get it. We're waiting on the quarterback, too. It's happening, I'm sure, in some capacity or another. Brooks, it's always fun to talk to you because you got to kind of like live this from a different perspective. Obviously, you did not enter the transfer portal. You stayed at Auburn your entire duration there. But I assume you knew a couple guys or got to watch a couple guys go through that process of entering the transfer portal. So we're going to start the conversation there. From your experience, I don't know how closely you knew anyone that hit the portal, but seeing guys go through that portal process, what are the challenges that come along with that? And from within, like how do you go about that from within?
Yeah, I mean, just like when your teammates enter the portal, it's a weird mix of, you don't want them to leave if they're your buddies, obviously, but also, if they are your friend, you want them to do what's best for them. And, some people just, when they go in, that's it. And they don't really interact with any of the rest of the team anymore. They'll just do their own thing, which, I mean, a lot of the coaches will say that, like, once you hit the portal, there's no more communication. Like, you're done with us. You're moving on. We wish you the best, but go do your thing. So it's just different because just trying to navigate and like see these guys who at one point were recruited. All of the people that hit the portal were recruited really hard coming out of high school when you don't know anything about college sports. You don't know anything about what you want to do or what it's really like. Everybody just comes in as a freshman and you hear all these great things about what college football is going to be like during recruiting out of high school. And then you're kind of more of just a seasoned person once you hit the portal when you're in college. Like you understand what college football means. And like, yeah, this thing is going to be hard. And you also understand that there are players at every level. And you start to notice that really quick, especially when you play some of these, beginning of the year games against maybe a group of 5 teams or even like a FCS school. Like pretty quick, you'll see guys out on the field that just stand out. And you're like, man, these guys, they can come from anywhere. Like, and I know that I'm sure for a bunch of the people that enter the portal, it's like, all right, there are people that, if you believe that you're a starting SEC caliber player, you can say, well, here's another guy that's just as good as me that might not be at this school. Maybe he's using it as a stepping stone or whatever. So just watching the guys try to figure out and go back through the recruiting process, but being more aware of what college football is like, it feels like it's a lot more subdued because they're just not like bright-eyed 16, 17-year-old kids anymore.
Sure.
Oh, well, yeah, I was going to bring up, was there ever a time where you overheard a coach or got told that a coach tried to push a player into the portal, as in like they weren't fitting with the scheme and this would be best for their career? You don't have to name names specifically for their protection, but whatever.
I mean, you can if you want, but like I wouldn't.
Yeah. What I have heard is I don't think coaches will necessarily tell a kid. Now, maybe they will, but it's just something I haven't heard of where they're like, hey, you need to hit the portal. But they, kind of coach speak, kind of just more in a professional way. They might say it's probably in your best interest to look into going somewhere else, because they might not even mean that in a bad way, but it might just be a genuine thing that like, hey, I'm realizing you're not really fitting in my system. I'm sure you're kind of realizing it some, and like we're bringing in kids that will be playing. And I mean, especially if you're a coach that recruited these kids, you have personal relationships with them, and more often than not, you do wish the best for them, even if that doesn't necessarily mean that they're with y'all. So that's kind of what you hear is it doesn't really ever feel like it's an explicitly said like hit the portal, get out of here, unless there were to be some sort of incident or some guys causing problems over and over. But if it's just in terms of somebody's not really meeting the standard or not playing the way that you would expect them to play, or just understanding things the way that the coaches would want them to understand it, then more often than not, it turns into like, hey, let's have this mutual discussion. I wish you all the best. It feels like, and I'm sure you're understanding this too, it's feeling like you're not really fitting here. It might be a good idea for you to start looking at other places. I'm not going to tell you to leave, but I'm basically saying you're probably, unless something changes really big, you're probably not going to be playing here as much as you want to.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. It's kind of like one of those breakups where it's not you, it's me situations. And those are not fun for anybody involved. I'm going to bring you back to Auburn real quick here, Brooks. And I'm going to ask you, analyst Brooks Walton, known football analyst and known ball knower, Brooks Walton. I'm going to ask you real quick, what's Auburn's sales pitch for guys in the portal right now? I think it's a little bit different than guys that they're going out to recruit out of high school. But if you're Hugh Freeze and company, what's your pitch for guys that you're going to fill these holes? And I know Daniel's going to ask you to expand on position groups specifically. But what is your angle saying, hey, this is why you should come pick Auburn out of all these other potentially Power 5 SEC schools that are offering you to relocate to their program?
Yeah, it's all new now. I think probably the biggest one that you have is the NIL collective that Auburn has, and I know that is just such a massive, I don't know all the numbers on it, but I know that we're doing incredibly well, even compared to other SEC and SEC West schools specifically. Like Auburn is doing very, very, very well there. And it's hard to, you can't avoid it. So you might as well lean into it as your recruiting pitch and say, hey, this is where college football is at now. And here's our NIL collective. This is what you can do for us. And in return, this is what we can do for you. That's probably it. But then also, I mean, we have a brand new coach, and we have a brand new facility, and we just have we have the ability to play two of the best teams every single year. And I mean, yeah, football players are football players, and they want to beat good teams. And so that's always going to be a recruiting pitch for Auburn. But that's not just transfer portal specific. That's what you tell every high school kid that you want to come to Auburn also.
I think you also combine that, guys, with instant playing time. I think that's a big sales pitch right now too. If you're coming in and filling an immediate need, which Daniel's about to kind of touch base on, I think that's got to be a pitch. If you're a guy in the trenches, hey, you're going to come and get snaps in the SEC, and you're going to play some of the best teams in the country, and you're going to get meaningful snaps and meaningful tape. I think that's got to be a big part of Freeze and Company's sales pitch. Also, before we get to Daniel, I think that Brooks, I'm just editorializing here, I think Brooks might have just taken a slight little jab at a school that wears powder blue in Mississippi, and I love it. Daniel, go ahead and continue.
So, Brooks, obviously, there are a lot of areas of this roster that could use some work. What specific positions do you want to see Auburn kind of try to improve the most through the portal?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big one's quarterback. Like, if we can go out there and get an established quarterback, like that's the easy answer. We need it. We need somebody that has a bunch of experience because we're all young, and I mean, we've talked about it, but we don't know if any of the guys there are going to be super, super ready to be an SEC starter. And so we can go out and grab somebody there that's great. Also, I think skill positions especially, you can, like I said, you can get an absolute stud from anywhere. And that's what you hear from people that even take a step down to FCS or even D2 level. Like, you hear that the biggest difference is in the linemen. And you can you can get comparable receivers and D-backs and running backs pretty much anywhere. So, the portal is just filled with those types of guys. And receiving room, yeah, we could definitely use some people. Tavares Dawson just hit the portal, and so we got to try to fill that. We have some injuries. Like, I would love to see that too, because that really, you can get a quarterback and a receiver all popping in at the same time. All of a sudden, we've really got kind of a new look offense, and things could get really exciting pretty quick.
I'm going to take it to the other side of the ball here for you real quick, Brooks. And I know that you're going to hype your boys up and some of these guys you played with in that linebacker room. There's a lot of people very skeptical of this group. And I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I am people. And that's not me really talking down on it, but you mentioned it several times that you lose your big guys, your Owen Papos, guys that you knew were going to get meaningful snaps. That's a group that you've got to go improve on, but it's difficult to find I guess, guys that are good enough to come play immediately. And you understand this better than anyone. There's no conference tougher to play in the SEC. And the linebackers tasked with a bunch at the SEC level, especially with teams that are deep in the trenches and have explosive run games or can be balanced in terms of airing the ball out and putting it on the ground. How many guys, and I'm just going to go ahead and put words in your mouth and assume you would like to at least Auburn to get one linebacker. How many linebackers would you feel good about Auburn pulling out of this portal?
If we could get, because we're losing people now. We've had a few guys hit the portal, but if we can get 2 to 3, that'd be crazy good. I don't know if we can really, call it a failure if we don't hit that number, because that's a lot of linebackers to try to get. But yeah, I mean, I'd said it before, but even if you pull in guys that might not necessarily get as many reps as you would expect for a guy from the portal, that's at least another body that's in there that's able to come in and give other people breaks, and you have more people pushing whoever the eventual starter is going to be. But yeah, get a couple of guys in the portal. You need to find somebody or two people that will be the leaders out there and be extremely aggressive, really know the defense well. And you've got to find that person. And we can totally get somebody like that and bring them in.
I don't disagree. I also think that Jack linebacker is a position you can improve on as well, where you have a guy coming off the edge, formerly known as edge rusher. Jack is way cooler, way better name. I'm all here for that. But you have Elijah McAllister, and I don't think Keldrick Faulk's quite there yet from what we've been told. I think Elijah McAllister can be an SEC. I mean, we know he's an SEC edge rusher. We've seen him do it. I just don't know if he is in Auburn, SEC West edge rusher yet. Still to be seen, but another position I think that would serve Auburn well. Dylan, I know you were about to go ahead, so that's all you.
I was going to bring up the Jack. You gotta love the new edge rusher position, but I also look at from the fact that I think Auburn's secretly loaded at that position. I just think they have young guys like Dylan Brooks who came in a couple years back who could be ready, but I don't know if they're given the same chance that Keldrick Faulk has been given to be like an immediate second stringer. But I look at it from, I guess I got to figure out a question. But from when I look at it from that, you have two young guys and you're bringing in a guy like Elijah McAllister who has a year left of his eligibility. Why get another edge rusher when you have the SEC talent already there and you have two developmental pieces right behind him and Keldrick Faulk is probably going to be one of the best edge rushers we've seen in a hot minute, maybe, hopefully. Just because that's the kind of level of athleticism that he brings to the table. And you bring up linebacker, I was going to ask you from what we see. I don't know how much you've been watching the linebackers, but has there been a linebacker per se that you've been impressed with in the current core that Auburn has right now?
I mean, the most that I've seen, is from spring game, and spring game was kind of a little bit hard to tell because, again, I mean, we talked about the weather, but everybody just looked a step slower than that they really are. But I think the room is super, super. There's a lot of parity in there, and that's good and bad. I haven't seen anybody that really stands out to me as like, hey, this is the next guy. This is going to be the next, potential all SEC linebacker. And could be wrong. We might have somebody in there. We've got, athletic freaks in that room right now. So it could be anybody. But yeah, so far in the spring, I haven't seen anybody stand out. I mean, guys like Owen, they show up on film the very first day that they're on campus, and it's just different. So, I haven't seen anybody of that kind of next level above everybody else yet.
I think that's kind of the part of the problem, guys, where Auburn fans are looking around and you're seeing a couple of positions where you're not seeing guys that you're like, well, he's him. I think you're seeing that there's that large question mark. And then in that linebacker room, we were expecting Demario Tolan to be a little further along than he is right now. I'm not entirely confident that he's up to where we expected him to be. You can flip over to that wide receiver room. I mean, hell, Tavares Dawson just dipped out last week, which not hating on him. I don't know how he fits in that receiver room either. But there's not really been anyone in large without your givens that you're like, wow, this guy can really play the slot well, or this guy's going to be the definitive outside wide receiver. We think that may be Nick Martiner, but that's neither here nor there. I think that's another one of those positions you're like, well, nobody's really impressed me. I don't know that I've been severely underwhelmed, but there's never been a guy like, yeah, okay, he can go up and high pointed ball, or for linebackers, oh yeah, this guy's reading his gaps correctly every time and reading the quarterback well. I think that's kind of like how you can identify where you need to go to the portal. If there's not a guy that stands out, the odds that everyone in that room is that damn good are slim. So it's at this level, rather. At the professional level, that's another story. But at the collegiate level, the odds that your room's so loaded that it's just that competitive, not that high. So that I'll turn this over to Daniel, but I just kind of wanted to throw that in there. That's I feel like a good way to identify where we were at right now.
So Brooks, obviously, last week Jeffrey Mba announced that he was hitting the road. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have in the defensive line room, and just kind of beyond that? Do you think like NIL is kind of taking away the ability of guys to kind of like be patient and wait for their time?
Oh yeah, the second part, the NIL thing, I mean, for sure. And that's been happening once they changed the transfer rules, a few years back. But that, I mean, not to sound like an old person, because I wasn't really around for that generation as much, but there's not much loyalty anymore. You get some guys that are, like you think of guys like Derek Hall and Colby Wood, and like those people, they did love Auburn and they wanted to be here. But just in general, in mass in college football, you don't get that as much anymore because, yeah, I mean, they make it easier for people to try to bump up their own status, which is fine. You want everybody to succeed. But yeah, at the same time, there's always a chance you can go somewhere better, somewhere that will give you more money or can promise more playing time or better facilities or whatever it might be. So yeah, I mean, he's an example of probably it's hard to keep anybody, especially if you're not the top tier team. Forget the kid's name, but the tight end from Utah this past year, Dalton Kincaid, I think, there are rumors about him getting offered 7 figures to hit the portal, which is just unbelievable. And props to him for turning it down. Yeah, it is. And so stuff like that it's happening and you can't avoid it anymore. So might as well deal with it and move on. And, people say the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. Like, we lose a guy like Jeffrey, but then we could pick up somebody else. And so you just got to look at it that way. Like, yeah, his leaving hurts. That's a guy that, you feel like was an Auburn type kid and seemed to really enjoy it here and seemed to enjoy interacting with the fans. And I'm sure it's not all extremely selfish reasons, but yeah, that hurts the room, especially if everybody in the room and the coaches were really trusting him to be more of an older presence and a really solid piece to that line. So that one's going to hurt, but I think a school like Auburn, the trenches, the D line, we're pretty good at refilling typically. So you would like to be able to see us come in pretty quick and fill in that gap pretty well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he's one you can't deny. Like him leaving in the portal, that one hurts.
I agree with you completely, Brooks, and we're going to let you go after this. we're going to test this theory at the end of the portal period. We're about to find out if Brooks Walton is a wizard, and we're going to find out. There's only one way to find out. If you're spot on here, I'm going to make you play the lottery for me. Let's just go through real quick the positions that Auburn's going to need and they're going to be looking for sure in the portal: quarterback, wide receiver, defensive line, linebacker. There's 4. I think they probably go grab another offensive lineman. I think that's probably in the picture. So there's 5 positions. Auburn's going to be going after and looking to reload at those 5 positions. So Hugh Freeze and company will pull in a total of blank transfers before this portal period ends. Brooks.
All right. In total, or those 5 positions?
In total.
They have 13 days.
Give me 5.
5? You like 5 even?
I like 5 even.
I like 8.
That would be great.
I'm not kidding. I think that it's a slow start, and then I think that once that first domino falls, and it's not just going to be for Auburn. Once that first domino falls within this conference, a big name transfer falls, it's going to be a mad dash to see who can get who. And I think that it's going to be a little bit more quantity over quality right now, but I like somewhere to the effect of 8. Brooks, thanks so much for joining us today, and we're looking forward to talking with you again as many Tuesdays as you're willing to come on for Bruesdays with Brooks. It's always a good time to talk ball with you. So we're going to let you get out of here. We're going to let Dylan hit the little cut on our new platform. We'll see if he can pause this. We're about to find out. But if not, then we'll just do our little dancey dance. Brooks, thanks so much for joining us today, man. Always a pleasure. Take care of yourself. Be good, and we will see you next week. Yes, a big thank you to our good friend and known football knower and analyst, Brooks Walton. Always a ton of fun having him on the show every Tuesday. Wish we could have him on more often. We probably could if we bullied him enough. Maybe we'll see if we can make that happen. For now, we're going to talk Auburn basketball, and we're going to talk a little bit about some transfers out and the hot take presented by Sir Charles Barkley himself. That's coming up here in just a moment. First and foremost, guys, Chance Westry has committed to continuing his collegiate basketball career at Syracuse. So that's a little bit of an interesting move. Syracuse kind of a down year last year. You would assume that if Westry can be healthy, that this is an instant impact. Dylan, tell me just logic here. I mean, Syracuse fell in Chance's, I think, final 5 or top 10 in high school. Not a ton of surprise here, right?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, Syracuse is a big basketball brand. Even so, I think was the football team that plays in the basketball arena. Is that how Syracuse goes?
Yeah. Continue.
But I mean, Syracuse, you said they had a down year. I mean, picking up Chance Westry is a big help into not having no down year. Because Chance Westry, if he was to develop in the way that we all think he can, I think Syracuse is going to have a true star in the making right there. And you can't really blame him for going to Syracuse. I mean, same color scheme as Auburn, and particularly a funnier-looking mascot. Go Orange. They're very fun.
Oh, I'm sorry. My fault. Yes!
Daniel is watching his Boston Bruins in the background. I want to build off that real quick here, Dylan, about what you're talking about Syracuse being that historical basketball brand. I mean, if you think it's some names that come through there, first one that comes to my mind is Carmelo Anthony. And you look at the guys that really dominated on the hardwood for Syracuse. And let's not forget Aiden Autry, named as Syracuse's new head basketball coach. This is a new era in Syracuse, New York. Daniel, how big of a draw is that for a kid that was recruited by a different coach while at Syracuse and then is now going as at the beginning of a new era? Is that some kind of, like, I guess, flashy mark? I guess we're kind of living that for Auburn football. But from a basketball perspective, is that something that you can justify going and using your second year of eligibility at?
Sure. First of all, I would just like to once again apologize for my out-of-character outburst. Tonight is night 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and my beloved Boston Bruins just scored. So I apologize once again. But yes, that's huge. It sort of reminds me of a little bit of like what Duke was doing a year ago. Like obviously not as high profile as Duke's was, as they were losing one of the best college basketball coach of all time.
Yes,
retiring.
Mike Krzyzewski, the best ever.
Boeheim's probably, I don't know, top insert somewhat low 10 number here.
Sure.
Yeah. So still a very, very good historic coach. And you're in transition. Big basketball brand.
100%.
A lot of great NBA players who have come through there. So I definitely feel like great or known for developing guards. That's another thing the Orange do really well. So I just kind of feel like it checks a lot of boxes that Chance may have been looking for. Plus, like with a new coach, it's an opportunity that, and even though it wasn't an internal hire, it's still a new opportunity with a newish staff. I'm sure it'll be about half and half,
and relatively clean slate.
Right.
It makes perfect sense to me, and I'm wishing Chance the best. I really am. I got no ill will, and I really don't understand some of the people on Twitter that do. Like, what? Why? Who cares? Wishing the kid the best. It just didn't work out at Auburn, and that happens and it feels like it happens at Auburn more than it does at most places. That's not true. It's every fan base feels this way. Everyone's got those guys that what if insert the name here athlete would have panned out. Auburn's got Jeremy Johnson. All right. There's a lot of situations like that. Even the Austin Wileys. I mean, like look at his profile coming in. But moving forward, let's talk about Charles Barkley mentioning and bringing up a conversation. And this is like only sort of relevant. And Daniel's got his hand up here.
I'm going to go first when you're done. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. I'm just going to pitch this. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. But Charles Barkley said that it's time for Auburn to ditch Under Armour and move to Nike. Daniel said he wanted to go first. So I'm scared about what's going to happen here, but I'm watching.
No need to be scared. In fact, this is a conversation you and I had about a month or so ago, give or take, where we were just talking about how bad some of the Auburn gear is. And then I covered the Auburn-Vanderbilt basketball game on February 18th, and I picked up this very, very awesome Nike long-sleeve T-shirt. And, awesome. Look at this design. Just look at the font.
Yeah, that's sweet.
This is great. This is great gear. There is no world where Vanderbilt deserves to have better gear than Auburn. Okay?
Maybe the baseball world.
Sure. Some of the crap, I said it, that Under Armour has put out is shameful. Have y'all seen that like long sleeve basketball shooting shirt that's like a royal blue at the bottom and like gradient turns into a navy? Like, what is that?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
That's something that a terrible AAU team would wear. And I will not apologize for saying that. Under Armour sucks.
Yeah, I actually kind of want to build on, aside from the fact that the drip's bad, Dylan, the amount of people we've heard and athletes at Auburn specifically, we've heard suffering injuries because their damn cleats aren't good. And I mean, that is a huge freaking problem, guys. I understand, we all want good drip for your favorite team. I get it. I understand the design mock-ups, whatever. I could get past the average to below average designs. That, just throw it out. That's not my argument. We've had so many kids, namely that damn 2021 baseball team who suffered so many injuries because of these cleats just not holding up. So many wide receivers get turf toe at an exponential level that we don't see at other schools. Why is this still an organization that Auburn chooses to allow to endorse them when it's hurting their kids and ultimately hurting your programs? I know that this sounds ridiculous, like a rant to go on here, Dylan. Tell me if I'm crazy. To hell with the good looks and the drip or whatever. I just want our kids to not get hurt.
Yeah, you're not wrong at all. I mean, you talk about players that have been complaining about it as of recent. I mean, it goes recently as today. Friend of the program, Bree Ellis, even brought up you'd be furious as to how many softball players have to wear a boot because of the gear they wear. And I mean, when you look at the two of the biggest players in Auburn athletics history are both Nike guys. Charles Barkley and Bo Jackson are two Nike athletes. And you think they'd have a little more leeway because, of course, they love Nike. Everyone loves the Nike gear you get. And Auburn remains as one of the 17 remaining FBS schools that have Under Armour still. And I think that they are the top school with it. I know Notre Dame's there.
Notre Dame.
Is it Notre Dame?
Notre Dame is 100%.
Probably, okay.
Yeah.
UCLA would be up there.
And UCLA is no longer
they're Jordan
Under Armour anymore.
Oh, that's on me.
They dropped up 2 years ago. Boston College dropped Under Armour. They're like these smaller schools. I don't want to say UCLA as a smaller school, but like Boston College is a smaller school than Auburn, and they have the leeway to just drop Under Armour for their contracts up. Is Auburn going to wait till 2025?
2025.
If I may here.
Sure.
Boston College decided to go be an ambassador school for New Balance, and I feel like that's worked out great.
Sure.
So there's one brand that I would like to see Auburn potentially be an ambassador school for.
Russell.
Anyone who knows me knows that I enjoy my distance running, and every good distance runner, not that I'm good or fast, I just do it because it's a very, very nice thing to get your mind off your busy week. I love, love, love On Clouds. So if On Cloud comes down to the Plains and wants to be like, Auburn, be the first On Cloud school, I would be on board.
I think a lot of people would have your back there, except for maybe on the gridiron, and that would probably not follow suit. But I love that concept. I also love the people that said, let's go get Auburn as a Lululemon ambassador school. I'm not saying no. I'm just not saying no. Anywho, Dylan.
I would say it is fair to mention the track and field team doesn't have Under Armour gear.
What do they wear?
They wear Nike. Under Armour doesn't produce track and field. They don't produce the spike shoes. They don't produce them at all.
They don't produce gymnastics leotards.
Huh.
Talk about bizarre contracts at a top 20 revenue-wise institution in freaking America, and you're an ambassador for an organization and a corporation that has filed for bankruptcy twice in the past half decade. We got to keep moving forward before I get too heated, because this is just absolutely freaking ridiculous. and I don't even understand why there's a conversation, guys. Let's keep moving forward with the rest of our rundown. Let's talk a little bit of baseball. Auburn dropped their series over against Alabama in Tuscaloosa 2-1. And to be completely honest with you guys, I was kind of surprised Auburn didn't get swept, just to be completely candid. They certainly tried on Friday night, but they tried their best to let Bama come back on Friday night. But I didn't think Auburn played that bad. Specifically, I didn't think that Auburn pitched that poorly this weekend. Daniel, you were on site. Let's see. Let me hear your analysis real quick.
Sure. Yeah, Friday night was a little bit of a fluke there at the end, almost, where the tying run came up to the plate. That was a head scratcher for me.
Was it a fluke, or was it just the Auburn bullpen?
That was just the Auburn bullpen.
Okay.
And then heading into Saturday's the one that really kind of got away, in my opinion. Yeah. Auburn was there. They had a shot in the top of the ninth inning. I was staying with my good friend Will, who is a student sports writer for Alabama. So we were kind of texting back and forth during that game, and he was like, "Are y'all going to come back, or what are y'all going to do?" I was like, "I don't know yet. That's for the bullpen to decide, and that's for the bats to decide." And on Saturday, it was the bats that kind of, I'm not going to say let Auburn down, but it was the bats that didn't really get the job done. The pitching was fine. You know, 4 runs, I feel like holding a team to 4 runs is about all you're going to be able to expect out of this pitching staff.
That's incredible for this pitching staff.
Yeah. And when you're a team that has 4 or 5 guys in the lineup who are hitting above 300, 4 runs is not that tall of a task.
No.
And Sunday, that I love Christian Eberhals. I'm a big fan of him, and I'm a big believer in him. But when I found out that he was going to be starting on Sunday, I was kind of like, oh no. And he didn't even really do that bad.
Not particularly.
So, I don't know. Just a lot of things kind of went wrong that don't normally. A lot of weird things happen. Alabama shortstop Jim Jarvis stealing home when I forget who was on the mound for Auburn at that point. I want to say it was Zach Crotchfeld, but I'm not sure if that was right.
I think it was Zach. Just
kind of, just not throwing homes. It was like he was out of it.
Yeah.
Which I, texted Will saying the highest level of baseball where I'm willing to accept the pitcher letting a run score because he wasn't paying attention is T-ball when there's no pitcher. That's just that really got me.
To Zach Crotchfeld's credit, though, there's just so many other things that could have gone different ways. And this is the first weekend, fellas, maybe in 2023, that I've looked and said, it really wasn't all the pitching's fault. And that inherently means that this is still the pitching's fault. I say that because in the one game where you don't post 8 runs, you lose. Okay. I get it. I understand. You hold Alabama to 4 runs and you expect your bats to be hot like that. Your bats have bailed you out so many times. You cannot turn around every single time and say, hey, guys, we finally did it. I know you guys are really cold today, but we need you right now. And I get it. I understand it's a team sport, both sides. I understand. If there's a little more consistency in this Auburn bullpen, this team is a top 5 team in the SEC. If you're just going off offense alone, if this pitching rotation was even average, you'd be in good shape. All that to say, we'll continue our analysis on Auburn baseball as we come through the week. They've got a midweek matchup with Samford at Auburn, at Plainsman Park rather this week as the show comes out tomorrow evening, or I guess this evening at 6 p.m. Central Time. And then they're headed to Mississippi to Starkville, Mississippi to take on Mississippi State. We'll have a breakdown on that on the Thursday.
Those are home games.
What's up?
Those are home games.
They are absolutely home games, and they were shaded and in gray because my mouse was hovering over it. My apologies. Thank you for correcting me there, Daniel. I sincerely appreciate that because I would have totally just thought that these games were in Starkville. But the good news there is the Mississippi schools are really bad, guys. They are really, really bad. And you have to win these. Daniel, you go ahead.
I mean, yeah, Mississippi State hasn't been great this year, especially compared to what they normally are, but they're starting to figure it out.
Yeah, which is not great for Auburn in terms of timing.
No, definitely not. You wish you could have gotten them a couple weeks ago, but that's just not the way it works out. So you're going into this with the normal mindset of okay, this is a tough SEC opponent. This isn't a down week, quite the opposite. Sure. And just going down the stretch here, there's no more easy games.
None.
Because the following week you got to go up to South Carolina. And then the week after that, you've got LSU, the best baseball team in the country, coming to the Plains. And then, after that, I believe Missouri, Ole Miss is in there. Missouri follows them up in the regular season. And if you make it to Hoover, that's never easy.
No, absolutely not. And if you look at the schedule breakdown, going down the stretch, like you mentioned, there are glimmers of hope, but you think you need to win at least 5 conference games, right? That's been our magic number, right? It's 10 conference games to solidify yourself to go to the postseason and to go to Hoover for that matter. I think Auburn will make Hoover. I do. Actually, I think that people are not going to realize how big that one win in Alabama was. That was a pretty damn big win. If you can steal at least one, maybe if you take 2 from Mississippi State, I think you're in great shape. You look at Ole Miss, if you can grab one there, if you can take 1 from South Carolina, you're in really good business. LSU has yet, fact check me guys, LSU's yet to sweep an opponent. Of course, there's always a first. Don't get me wrong. But LSU has not swept an opponent this year, which is baffling. Like a conference opponent, rather. But which is baffling because they are head and shoulders better than everybody in the country. They should win the College World Series. I don't know if they will, but they should. But this slate's tough. And then your midweeks, Troy and Samford twice. There is no freebie remaining. No. So it'll be interesting to see how Auburn baseball closes that one out. Dylan, you may or may not have gone into cardiac arrest on Sunday. Metaphorically, Dylan's fine, not literally. Over Auburn softball. Walk me through this weekend. I didn't get to watch much this weekend. I went back and looked at boxes, but I mean, you can only tell so much from a box score, right? You can't really tell the story of the game as much.
Yeah.
And a dramatic series win in walk-off fashion on Sunday. Walk me through your weekend and your emotional highs and lows, your emotional heavens and hells, and talk to me about Auburn softball and why Maddie Pinta's so good and how big of a win this was over LSU at home.
I mean, it was a huge win. If you look at the ranking, LSU the 13th ranked team in the country, and you look at it
for a reason.
And they gave Auburn trouble everywhere. Friday you get the win 5-3. Saturday they squeak by, winning 3-2, and then of course you get the walk off from Michaela Packer in Sunday's game. And I about fell off my bed watching it. I was on the phone with my girlfriend. I was freaking out. I was screaming. I was cheering. I was hollering. I was getting ready to do a lap around the house. Y'all know my reactions. I was trying to get it.
Both hooting and hollering.
I was walk off celebrating.
Oh, okay, so hooting and hollering. Gotcha.
Hooting and hollering, because Maddie Pinta is so her, and you could tell that because that's the 2 games Auburn won. And show what?
I have a contest idea for you. So let's just get a candid video of one of your softball celebrations, and we'll compare one to a candid video of my Bruins playoff goal celebrations. And we'll see who goes crazier.
And then we'll compare them to me watching Dylan push other people's buttons and watching me just be as equally frustrated as the people who I know don't comprehend that this is all a bit. And we'll just see which one's the most entertaining. Continue, Dylan.
Yeah, and look at it from the Saturday. I mean, Shelby pitched well, and she couldn't help the fact that 2 home runs went over the fence. So you can't help that at all.
Shelby Lowe quietly figuring things out, like in fine tuning as we come down the stretch. By the way,
yeah, and she came out and closed out the Sunday game as well, and she masterclass as well. Auburn's pitching staff is the best in the country. One might say, at least in one sport, that is. Are you getting ready to make the joke?
I wasn't. I was going to say official Dylan Larck power rankings, but that was really funny. So carry on.
Yeah, we're still wondering if Maddie Pinto can pitch a baseball. Still wondering to this day. People are asking. People are wondering. People are hoping, people. Actually. We are people. But yeah, Auburn is now going to go into, I believe on Thursday. Is that right? No, Wednesday. Wednesday playing Jacksonville State for Bark in the Park. So go support your local Tigers with your little puppies.
And they get to take on Alabama this weekend in the softball installment of the Iron Bowl. And after this weekend's softball series, we're going to do a breakdown next week. And we haven't even told Daniel this yet, of the year-long athletics Iron Bowl. And woof.
And what we'll do is we'll start with volleyball back in September, and then we'll fade to black. And then we'll watch Bruins playoff hockey.
I might be missing an episode of the College Loop for first time in forever. I can't deal with this conversation. It hurts.
Well, we're having it. Whether or not you want to be here is up to you. But yeah, they'll take on Alabama this weekend after Jacksonville State in the midweek, and we've preached it so many times. You cannot take these midweeks for granted. They've got to be wins, guys. You've got to win your non-cons. You have to, especially in the middle of a brutal conference slate. If nothing else, just serve for confidence, and you've got to capitalize it. You want to try to run rule them. Not just because you want to get in and get out and not make your pitchers throw more than they have to, but also just because you need to remind yourself that you can be a very, very good team. And this team's getting really hot at the right time. Don't get me wrong. Auburn softball is right where they need to be. But you've got to keep yourself locked in and and remind yourself to not fall asleep during the midweeks. That being said, Dylan, I'm going to bump your last point to Thursday. I promise we'll get there. I'm going to bump that to Thursday so you guys have a little cliffhanger. Dylan had another point. Shocker. We're going to start with Daniel. He's going to let everybody know where he can find him, love him, and support him. And then we'll work our way around. Dylan's going to get us out of here. Hope you guys liked the new formatting. And Daniel, go right ahead. Floor is yours.
You can follow me on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke, where if you happen to be a Boston Bruins fan, I'll have plenty of stuff for you to read. You can find my written work at any Auburn student media outlet, for the Opelika Observer, for Auburn Wire, anywhere that I just listed.
There you go. Lots and lots of opportunities for Daniel Locke and to check out his content. I am Harrison Tarr, by Harrison Tarr on the Bird app. If you want to check out my written work, that is at the Auburn Daily, theauburndaily.com. More of my podcasting work available on the Auburn Daily Show every Wednesday with Dylan Larck, every Friday with the legendary Lindsey Crosby. And also, if you want to check out more of my content, it's right here on the College Loop. Dylan's going to tell you all about it. But before I throw it over to him, I want to remind you guys that if you enjoyed this content, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell. Let us know in the comments. We talked with Brooks. What is your most important position, not named quarterback, for Auburn football to go get in the portal? And if you want to say 1A is quarterback and then 1B, whatever else, that's fine. If you guys have any takes about who Auburn needs to go to the portal, that's great. We want to hear them all. We will feature them on the show if we have good takes. We're very serious about that. So thank you guys so much for the love and support. By the way, this is growing at a crazy rate, and we're super, super excited for a lot of new stuff. I think we got interns now, so that's super, super cool. So we suckered some kids into thinking, I'm just kidding. We're very excited to have you on board. So we're really excited for a lot of new stuff available right here coming your way on the College Loop, and specifically the College Loop YouTube channel. So make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell. Dylan, it's all yours. Let's get out of here, my man.
Yeah, it's a little weird. You throw it to me on the left. I got to throw it to me on the
I know, it's weird, right?
Yeah, we're on the opposite side of each other now. But yeah, I'm Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter. If you're watching, it's just right there in a little smaller box here. Let me try to help you. There, right there, where my finger's pointing. And if you're listening, it's at your boy the Tank, at YABOY the Tank. Also, catch me on the Auburn Daily Show every Monday with Lance Daw, and of course Wednesday with Harrison Tarr. Go check out my yesterday's episode where me and Lance talked about the transfer portal and about why Auburn should switch to Nike. Basically the same thing as today's episode. And of course, follow the College Loop literally everywhere. That is Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, social media. You got us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. But sadly, no MySpace. Sad, I know. We'll try it. We're working on it, Believe me, that's what the interns are for. Tarr's frozen. That's funny. I love that so much. But yeah, of course, also go check out my written work on the auburndaily.com as well. And with all that being said, for the College Loop Podcast,